I mean, I was first persuaded just by the logic of it. I was a scientist, or trained as certainly an undergrad to be a scientist. My wife's a physician.
You're kind of a logical guy.
Let's just go. I like logic first, and that's kind of where I usually reason with people who disagree with me on this. We agree as a society. Nobody disputes it. Nobody's going to be protesting on the streets about this to say that life ends on the back end when brainwaves end. Nobody disputes that. Well, if we apply that rule on the back end, then that means life begins no later than when brainwaves begin. That's 5 to 6 weeks. And so the logic of it leads me there. I would say that my faith also leads me there, Bob, is that we believe that God resides in each of us. And I would say God taught us that lesson too. I actually haven't shared this story before, but you asked about a personal experience, and so I'm going to dip below the logic here. So Purva, my wife, you and Darla have met several times now. She is a physician. She's a throat surgeon. That's why she's not here right now. She'll be here tonight in Iowa, but she's protecting life now. She's saving lives at the cancer hospital in Ohio State, and she'll be here this evening. But she began her surgical training in 2015, and that's the year we got married. So that's when she entered her 5-year residency. And so the year we got married, we made a plan. We had it all planned out. Right? She was going to finish her residency. It was going to be 5 years in. And then we were going to have our first kid, and then we were going to have our second kid, and had it all mapped out perfectly. And I'd say God pretty quickly showed us what he thought of that plan when he, about halfway through her residency, at the start of her 4th year, blessed us with our first child. And we were ecstatic, actually. And the truth is, I was building my first company at that time. Apurva was working probably 80-plus hours a week. It's supposed to be capped at 80. They work them more in residency. And so we were going through a bit of a rough patch, to be honest with you, just with how much little time we were spending together. That brought us together. We told everybody we knew. We were ecstatic. We told our parents, and we weren't expecting the blessing, but we were grateful for it. We told our family members, celebrated with our friends. We actually bought a journal. We did that every night, and that brought us together. We wrote a letter to our child, what we wanted to impart, what were the stories from our parents and our grandparents we wanted to tell. And about 3.5 months in, Purva, one day she woke up, she said, I'm bleeding. She had a miscarriage. And we lost our first child. And that was the loss of a life. It was our family's loss. And you know Purva, she is probably one of the most upbeat, strong, positive people you will meet. She went into a state of depression after that. And our faith is what got us through it, actually. Our faith teaches us that our child joined his creator, and one day we will too. But it inspired us to now continue trying. Okay, it wasn't part of our plan. Well, we knew we wanted that blessing. We asked for it again. So God gave us that blessing a few months later. And we were nervous this time, but God wasn't done testing us, actually. So she's a surgeon. She's in the operating room. And this rarely ever happens. It's a rare incident. It only happened once in her career. It was this time while she was pregnant. She's operating. There's a second surgeon. 2 surgeons are operating. She gets a pinprick, draws blood. And, they look at the patient's tests afterwards just to make sure. And what do you know? That patient is HIV and HBV hepatitis B positive. So she goes into antiretroviral therapy, gets the hepatitis B vaccination again. Already had it, the start of her job, get it again. This is not good during your pregnancy, especially when our first one ended the way that it did. And so we were nervous. So I'm traveling abroad for work a few weeks later, maybe about a month or so later. And then I get the call that we dreaded. Purva's on the phone. She's crying. She said she was bleeding. And we'd lost our child in a miscarriage. And the thing that infuriated me also at the time was she couldn't even get an appointment until 3 days later. It was our healthcare system. And so one thing I know how to do is cut through bureaucracy. I'm abroad. I do what I do. Make the phone calls needed. She got an appointment the next day. And I told her to call me after she was out. And so the next day I was waiting for a call. She goes in for the doctor's appointment. I get the call. she's crying. I'm getting ready to console her. And she said they found a heartbeat. That was our son. That was our son, Karthik. We can probably leave him there. And that was alive, right? It's this guy right here. And you can sit up here, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that that's what gives us our commitment. I mean, yeah, there's the logic of it.
Yeah.
But when you bring life into this world, you protect all life born and unborn. And that's where our commitment comes from. And I think that, God taught us that through a different way than we had planned. But that's where we've landed, and we'll always protect life for that reason.
Vivek, thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you.
Really, thank you for sharing that story.
You okay?
You know, when you're
pro-life when our children's future's on fire. You've got a beautiful son. His future's on fire. None of you guys care about our children's future. In the Gospel of Luke chapter 10, it says that we're to love our neighbors as ourselves. Our neighbor's future's on fire. Our neighbor's future's on fire, and you guys don't have plans.
So part of
Future. Why will we not protect our neighbor's future? Why will we not protect our children's future from the climate emergency?
part of loving